Yeah, he like the volunteer picnics.
Okay, everybody, I think we'll go ahead and get started because it is relatively hot today, although just be glad we didn't do this at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So before we get started, I would like to acknowledge that the Historical Museum at Fort Missoula sits on the homelands of the Salish and Kalispel people. We offer our respect for their history and culture and for their wisdom in caring for this place for generations to come. This has been a long time coming. I think a lot of you have kind of seen this journey, especially some of my board members that are here in the crowd. We actually acquired the building behind me back in 2017 from the DNRC. At the time, it was being used as a maintenance shed, and they wanted to build a new maintenance shed, so we moved it from Spurgeon Road over here to the site. We constructed a foundation, and as most of you who walk the grounds and use our grounds know, it's sat here for quite a while. But we worked through the process. We were able to raise, in all, it's about $1.4 million for this project, which includes construction and the wonderful new exhibit inside. But it's been a long process, so I think from that standpoint, I can't tell you how excited we all are to have you here today and be able to finally dedicate this wonderful exhibit and wonderful new building. So I apologize for the next few minutes. It's going to come off more like an Oscars speech because I've got a million people to thank today. But I want to go through that. So I want to start with our funders. So the main piece that kind of got this project going was a grant from the Japanese American Confinement Sites Grant Program, which is through the National Park Service. That grant was a $533,000 grant. And that was, I always like to describe to my staff, grant writing and project fundraising for something like this. It's like pushing the rock up the hill, right? Until you get to that halfway point, then everybody wants to jump on. But getting that grant was incredibly important for us and really kind of opened us up to some of the other funders. We also received a pretty significant grant from the M.J. Murdoch Charitable Trust. Montana's own Tracy Foundation supported this project. The Lewis L. Bork Foundation. There was an exhibit. The grant for the exhibit came from the Institute for Museum and Library Services. We also want to mention Helga Hosford, who is a former Friends Board member, and her estate contributed significant amounts of matching dollars to make this project happen. And then I think the thing that I'm as proud of as any of those is that over 200 individual donors have given to this project over the course of the last few years. So that's super exciting, and we're incredibly thankful for that support. I also want to thank I sound like an Oscar speech. I also want to thank our construction and design team. So A&E Architecture and Design, Crystal Herzog is back there. She's going to be speaking here in a second. She was our lead on the construction portion. Paul Filicetti is also here. Paul conducted the assessment we did all the way back in 2020 on this building. Structure West and Stacy Haynes. Stacy is off to the right, dreading that he's going to have to speak here in a second. Stacy has been so incredible to work with. He's been flexible. I think he's really kind of fallen in love with this project, and it's really been something that's been exciting, and he's, wait till you step inside the building. He's done a spectacular job on it. Obviously, Historical Research Associates. Some of their team is over here, Morgan and Kayla, who will also be speaking in just a second. They designed the exhibit along with our curator, Emma Selfers. So they work kind of in tandem, but they just did a spectacular job on that exhibit. I also want to mention Ethan Redfern, and I'm not sure if Ethan's here today. I think he might be on vacation, but one of the benefits we have as a museum is being affiliated with Missoula County. And Ethan is an employee of Missoula County in facilities, and he acted as our construction manager on this project. This is something that if we were a private entity, would have probably cost us an additional $100,000 on this project, but because of the support of Missoula County and because of Ethan being able to manage this from a construction side, because frankly, I don't know anything about construction, we were able to work along with Stacy and really make sure that all the things we wanted to happen with this building did. Some other thank yous I want to give, Missoula County and our county commissioners. We have two of them here today. They've supported this project from the very beginning. They also supported us with help from the grants department. I know Nancy Rattel is with us today. Nancy worked with me to write the giant Japanese American Confinement Sites grant. But the commissioners support that kind of work and that kind of collaboration, which makes it a real benefit for us to be part of this. I also want to thank Senators Steve Daines and John Tester, who wrote letters of support for this grant back in 2021 or 2020. which I think it says a lot and helped us to be successful in that grant, to have that bipartisan support from our two senators. Of course, I need to mention our colleagues within the Japanese American Confinement Sites Coalition, who have been a wonderful resource and just wonderful colleagues to help advise us as we work through these processes. Obviously, the Department of Natural Resources and Conservation, who donated the building. My trustees and friends of the Historical Museum, my two boards, who have also supported this project generously, both through their own donations, but also through their support and their efforts towards fundraising for it. Of course, my museum staff, who have listened to me get frustrated over the years when it's taking too long to do this thing, or we got to raise more money, and they've always embraced that and embraced whatever it takes to get this project done. So I can't thank them enough for their support of this. And then finally, I just want to thank all the descendants of the folks that were here, the Italian and Japanese, who have contributed their stories and their memories and helped us to shape the exhibit you're going to see when we step inside here. So obviously, we're incredibly indebted to them to sharing their family histories, which it sometimes is difficult with this topic. So special thank you to those folks. So with that, I'm done with my Oscar speech. Nobody played the music to draw me off. So I'm going to call up Kristen from Senator Daines' office, and she's going to read a letter from the senator.
Thank you. My name is Kristen Kukin, and I'm here on behalf of U.S. Senator Steve Daines to share this letter from him with all of you. And it reads, "Dear friends, it is an honor to be here with you today at the Historical Museum of Fort Missoula, a place that has long stood as a guardian of memory, of truth, and the stories that have shaped our state and our country. Today we gather not only to celebrate the restoration of the detention barracks, but to recommit ourselves to remembering the full arc of history, even the parts that challenge us, that humble us, and ask us to do better. The restored barracks are more than just walls and wood. They are powerful reminders to honor the stories of the incarcerated Japanese Americans and Italian nationals right here on American soil during World War II. It's about acknowledging the injustice they endured and ensuring the future generations can come here, walk these grounds, and understand that history is something we must face, not just admire when it's easy. To the Executive Director, Matt Lausenheiser, your incredible team, thank you. The leadership and passion that are here make this place so vital to Missoula and to Montana. You've taken on a sacred responsibility of not just preserving history, but of teaching it with honesty, empathy, and integrity. This museum, this site, and this restoration project show what can happen when communities come together to face the past and shape a better future. I am proud to stand with all of you today, not just to open a building, but to open our hearts and minds to the lessons this place has to offer. Sincerely, U.S. Senator Steve Daines.
Thank you, Kristen. So our next speaker will be Missoula County Commissioner Josh Slotnick. Josh?
Y'all good, Ron? Okay. Thanks a lot, Matt, and thanks to all of you for coming out today on this beautiful day. I'm sure everybody could be somewhere else, but that you chose to come here says a lot. So I'm just going to talk at you for a few minutes. I want to talk first about what happened here, and then secondly, why we're doing this. First, on the what happened here. Shortly after Pearl Harbor, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt formally declared war and also wrote an executive order based on the 1789 Alien Enemies Act. This act called for the rounding up of people of Japanese descent and interning them against their will for an indeterminate amount of time for the safety of the United States. The people here at Fort Missoula were mostly men. They were separated, not mostly, they were entirely men. They were separated from their families. Their wives and children went one place, they came here. And when you walk in here, one of the things that struck me the other day was, well, it's not so bad. It looks pretty nice. Yeah, it looks pretty nice. And it was also a prison. For the people that were here, the men that were here, they did not know how long they were going to be here. They did not know if they would ever see their wives and their children again, or if they would ever return to their homes, their businesses, and their farms. They were in prison. Their fate was not their own. While they were here, they had to meet with a panel of judges for a loyalty hearing. The best case result of the loyalty hearing was what they would be deemed worthy enough to rejoin their wives and children in another internment camp. The worst case scenario would be that they would be held by the U.S. government and used as human stakes in a trade for Japanese prisoners later. Now, this was especially bad for these folks because of the essence of their culture at the time. A culture that prized responsibility and conformity and was built upon also shame for not meeting your responsibilities and your obligations. There's an ancient Japanese proverb, the nail that stands out gets hammered in. These folks we're talking about, these men, were new-ish, they could be second generation, so new-ish immigrants to the United States who did their very best to conform to not stand out. They learned to speak English and they excelled. They owned businesses and farms. I keep hitting on farms because a whole large part of this population came from the Pacific Northwest and were fruit and vegetable farmers. These people had excelled as immigrants and made tremendous efforts to conform. And when these men were held here, they internalized this as a failure on their part to meet their responsibilities to conform. They endured personal shame at having lost their homes, their farms, their businesses, and their families, for whom care for was their primary obligation. So as you walk inside here and see this really nice place, also know that it is home to the saddest of emotions. We can't measure the sadness, the depression, the shame that was in this space. The energy is bad. So, why not just close this dark chapter? Right? We could just be done with this and move on. Why do we spend this money and all this human effort to create this museum? And when I say dark chapter, please don't think, oh, it's just the 3 liberal county commissioners that would call this a dark chapter. I'm quoting the federal government, our government, when I say we apologize. In 1988, Ronald Reagan passed the Civil Liberties Act, where he formally apologized to Japanese Americans. He said internment, and this is a quote, was based on racial prejudice, wartime hysteria, and a failure of political leadership. And he authorized compensation, financial compensation for the survivors. So when I say dark chapter, it's not me and Dave and Juan. I'm quoting Ronald Reagan. But again, why do this? Maybe Ronald Reagan closed the chapter, paid people off. We can be done now. I want to go a little farther back in history to attempt to make my case why we can never be done. Another president wrote, and at the time he wasn't president when he wrote this, we hold these truths to be self-evident. Self-evident means we don't have to prove them. It's like gravity. They just are. We hold these truths to be self-evident. All people are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. That means the rights cannot be taken from them. They are of us. These inalienable rights include life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And these values are transcendent. They went way beyond the person who wrote them. They exist as guideposts for our country. When I think about American exceptionalism, this is what I think about. That we are built on these transcendent values. And those words were written by a man whose economic life was fueled by chattel slavery. His life partner, he held in bondage. And that doesn't lessen those values. In fact, what I'm talking about is not hypocrisy. That's deeply oversimplified. What I'm talking about is the essence of what I would call the American project, which is making those values real in the face of the most base and common of human impulses. The impulse to fear, impulse toward greed and power, and roll those three together, greed, power, fear, and you get mistakes at the deep cost of others, like this. I'm going to quote one more great American. The arc of history is long, but it tends towards justice. Now that arc doesn't just happen on its own. We can't just stand by and expect ourselves to get better. We get better in terms of justice, in terms of making those ideals real in the world, because we work for it. Justice is a practice. You have to do it over and over, and you never really get there. Creating a museum space like this allows others to engage in that practice through their visitation and learning the lessons incorporated here. That's why we do this, to make that practice of justice possible for the next generation of Missoulians, in the hopes that we don't ever do this sort of thing again. And I know, and we all know, we just might. But keeping places like this and these stories alive stacks the odds towards seeing that arc head towards justice. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Josh. Okay. So I'd like to call one of our Friends Board members, Ron Wakamoto, up to say a few words.
Thanks, man. Well, that's a tough act to follow, huh? Yeah. I feel like the luckiest guy in the world right now because we're finally finishing this thing. We finished it just in time, in fact, when you think about federal kinds of funding and things that are happening. You know, all my life I've known that I was a Japanese American. A very proud Japanese American, and my dad had fought in the 100th Battalion in the 442nd Regimental Combat Team in Italy, along with his brother. And I came to Missoula, Montana to teach. I taught in the School of Forestry for 33 years, and during that time, you know, I never talked about any of this stuff that I talk about now. But it's kind of like it's stuffed in yourself. It's stuffed in your body because all the time going all through school and all that at Berkeley, you knew all this stuff was there, but you never said it out loud. And that's why I feel so lucky because here I am now being able to say it out loud to 8th graders. We do hundreds of 8th graders every year. And we don't tell them what to think. We just want them to think. And that's the great deal to me. You know, when I first came out to Fort Missoula, Tom Nimlos, our soils professor, got me to come out here. He said, there's something out there that to do with the Japanese that I don't know what that is, but you ought to go out there and check it out. And I went out there and I saw a picture that I know now is the cover of Carol Van Valkenburg's book, An Alien Place. It shows Japanese businessmen walking through the gates of Fort Missoula. And it said these were opinion leaders of the community. And I went and I called my mom that night. And, you know, people have heard me talk about this before, but I called my mom and I very suddenly realized my own grandfather, who was a big opinion leader as a farmer in the Central Valley of California, was imprisoned in Fort Lincoln in Bismarck, North Dakota. I never knew that. I was 40 years old. I often ask those kids, you know, when they're in the session here in the Alien Detention Center, have you ever been to Bismarck, North Dakota in February? It's like walking into an upright freezer. And what's remarkable is that I get to talk about that stuff now. And so that's why I feel so lucky. My grandfather was one that left here. He was paroled, like Josh was saying. He was paroled, and he got to join the family in Rohr, Arkansas, in one of the most isolated, farthest east camps that we have of the 10. And there, he ran the farm. And we talk about the Issei, that first generation that was here. They were non-citizens because they were of Asian descent, and they were not allowed to naturalize until 1952. And my grandfather, after being imprisoned in Fort Missoula, or in Fort Lincoln, being shipped to Rohr, Arkansas, and spent the war years there, he, at 78 years old, because till the McLaren-Walters Act in 1952 was signed, an Asian could not become an American citizen. And he realized that this is my chance. So at 78 years old, he became an American citizen. I wish he'd lived a little longer after that, but he didn't. But everybody told him he was crazy. But it was important to him to die an American. That's what he wanted to do. There are other chapters in different books that there were a lot of Hawaiians that came here later in 43. And one fella, he described Missoula as, he literally said it was an oasis for him, because all these other military prisons that he'd been shipped to every 3 or 4 months, he finally got to Fort Missoula, and they treated him like a human being. They respected his ideas and his thoughts. And I'm really proud to be in Missoula when we're a sanctuary city, in a red state. It's just got to be that kind of place. And with this exhibit, you'll see it. You'll wonder why it's going to look pretty nice. It looks nice to me. It's because the men here were aliens. They were protected by the Geneva Convention. And in 1941, we were not at war until they got here. We really held up those parts of the Geneva Convention. That's why the olive oil and the pasta was here for the Italians. The soy sauce and the rice was here for the Japanese, which was not true in the War Relocation Authority camps. You'll see a very solid building without, big cracks in the walls where the wind can blow through, like you do in War Relocation Authority, barracks. And that's again because these are military buildings put together by military men. So it's really a wonderful place. And I'm just grateful that I'm here and we finally finished this darn thing. All right, thank you very much.
Okay, so now I'd like to call up our project architect, Crystal Herzig.
Thank you. All right, my name is Crystal Herzog. I'm here on behalf of A&E Design. I was project architect on this project. So, of course, I'd like to thank my team and everyone that worked with me on this project, Paul, Jim, Jared, and all the folks at A&E, and all of our consultants along the way. The history of Fort Missoula, especially as a Japanese-American confinement site, is especially important to share, as it helps tell the full American story. And that's something that we always strive to do at A&E as historic preservationists, is to really tell that full American story and make sure that everyone has a chance to see it, interpret it, and really experience it. So I'd like to thank Matt and his team and everyone at the Historical Museum at Fort Missoula for relentlessly pursuing grant funding. I know that was a long haul, and it really made this project happen, so thank you so much. I'd also like to thank Emma for ensuring an authentic, immersive experience and just helping us along the way with this second building here that's coming that will be an archival type facility. So thank you to her and her team for all of that. And I'd like to thank the Historical Museum at Fort Missoula and Missoula County for allowing A&E to share our historic preservation expertise on this amazing building. This has been the most unique and rewarding restoration project I've ever worked on. So again, I want to thank everyone who's been a part of that. It really is a community effort, and I'm very proud to be a Missoulian. So thank you. I'm going to say one more thing. I see Kate sitting back there, who is very instrumental in the drawing and all of the work to pull this building together. So I want to thank her as well. I missed that when I was originally thanking everyone from A&E. So thank you, Kate, and everyone else who was part of this project.
Thanks, Crystal. Next, I'd like to call up our project contractor, Stacy Haynes from Structure West. Stacy.
So this has been a challenge from the get-go. Oh, sorry. We did the pre-bid walk when the general contractors came to look at the building, which was not in very good shape. And me and a couple of the generals that I knew, we looked at each other and we kind of went, we might just step away from this one because that project was a project. A couple weeks went by, got a call from Ethan, and he's like, we really want you to bid that job. And I'm like, all right, I'll do it. Take a run at it. And we got the job, and we started the challenge. To me, it's a great challenge for me personally in our business because I get to showcase my craftsmen on a job that's more or less, you got to make a new building look old or an old building look new, so to speak. And a lot of that building we took down, we dismantled the old building, and with the research with Crystal and Emma and Matt, we followed the plan, which even these footprints of these two buildings are fairly small. The plans were 60 pages and the specs were 200 pages. So there was a lot of detail and a lot of just revisiting back there without having much but pictures and information from the people that I mentioned. So that being said, I want to thank my subs, who I think are the best in Western Montana. So ACM Abatement, Garden City Plumbing and Heating, Neely Electric, Strong Point Framing, Montana Fine Finishes, John Roski Woodworking. Good thing I wrote these down. Montana Glass, Boyce Lumber, Open Country Builders, Custom Wood Floors, Fedor there, great job on the floors. And VA, who is my, Victor Levchenko, who is my main craftsman, who can make a house out of a mud puddle. He is awesome. He did all the excavation, all the craftsmanship, and grab a hold of me, after everybody talks, and I'll tell you how much detail goes into this and how we had to, build it just like it came in on a train. And lastly, I want to thank Missoula County and their guidance, and they're kind of the construction project manager, and that's Ethan over there, Redfern. He's the man. He did a really good job, and I really like working with him, and he keeps me on my toes, and kudos to him. Sean Chandler, another guy at the county, who's another project manager, excellent guy to work for, and Jason Hauser, who's the facilities manager. With the fort, Matt, awesome, thank you, appreciate it, great to work with. Emma, again, another great to work with. I have their cell phone numbers so you know how close we are. Carrie and Carolyn at the fort, good job. A&E, so Crystal, great to work with. She messed up my name at another place. I'm not going to give her any grief on that, but it's been a pleasure. And DCI, the structural engineer, Mark, and his crew, I want to thank them. So more or less, great challenge, but more of an opportunity for me to not rewrite history, but bring history back and tell a story. And whether you guys, think it's a good chapter, bad chapter, whatever, it's here. You look at it, you make your decision. So, thank you.
You did great. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so next I'd like to call up our exhibit design team from Historical Research Associates. Morgan is going to speak.
Thanks, y'all. And I'm making Kayla Blackman come up because she's the actual curator. So she deserves tons of praise along with Emma. They've done all the heavy lifting. So HRA is a 50-year-old cultural resources and history consulting company, and we're headquartered in downtown Missoula, and we're so honored to work with the museum on this important project. At HRA, we interpret present understandings of past injustices to build a more just future, and this project really exemplifies that. I want to thank, of course, Kayla, who has just given blood, sweat, and tears to this project. This is really because of her. She's so creative. You get to interact with all these components in this space. You learn the context of this time of history about the Italian and Japanese men who were incarcerated here. And then in this space, you learn about 10 individuals, 5 Italian men, 5 Japanese men. So I'm really excited for everyone to check it out. I also want to thank the descendant community. We worked very closely, particularly with the Hirano, Sakamoto, and Tanaka families. And they donated their time, their knowledge, their resources to make sure that we were telling the stories of their grandfathers accurately and compassionately. So thank you for working with us, Matt. We're excited to continue to work with the fort on your interpretive plan and continuing to preserve this important history. Okay.
Thank you, Morgan. Okay, Emma, our curator of collections.
Forgot what the order was.
You're bringing it home.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
All right, so I wrote things down that I did not memorize, so I apologize that I will have to read this. So although you've now heard it several times from the speakers already, I wanted to offer a warm, despite it being far too warm for my tastes today, welcome to you all on this exciting day. We are so happy to have you all join our museum team as we officially open this new exhibit space on our grounds. Though this historic building has been meticulously put back together near its original Fort Missoula home by Stacy and the Structure West team, this exhibit breathes new life into a story that the museum has been dedicated to telling for decades. Matt mentioned the number, actually you didn't, I was expecting you to say the actual number of years, so Matt you may have heard him mention the number of years it has taken to get here, and while my involvement in this process came in towards the tail end, I'm so happy to have worked on this project with such a good team. Our previous education director, Christiana Elfson, was a font of knowledge about this topic, and for over 10 years really guided the museum's research and interpretation of the Alien Detention Center story. She was an integral part of the planning process for this exhibit, and I'm so thankful to have had her assistance in making this a reality. It's very sad she's not here today, but she will come see it eventually. It's sometimes hard to let go of the reins when you're so used to doing exhibits by yourself, but it was really easy letting HRA take the lead because of their thoughtful handling of this project. Their year of outreach to descendants and partner groups and care in choosing stories and artifacts really lets the stories of these incarcerated men shine through. Though it has been A very hot few days this week installing this exhibit in the building, which really truly gave Kayla and I an idea of what it would have been like in a hot summer day for these interned men in a building such as this. It has been so exciting to see the barracks come to life. From dreams and sketches of what this exhibit could look like at the start of the project to tangible objects like bunk beds and clothing being placed in the space, we really have come a long way. My hope is that this will be a new addition to the museum's cache of resources that will allow us to continue to share this important story with our community and share part of our nation's history. We want visitors to explore the space. Be sure you are looking for those little sailboats and stacked rock figures. There'll be fun interactive features in there. To meet these 5 Japanese and 5 Italian men who were incarcerated here. These men found ways to give their time here at Fort Missoula meaning, and even some of them became significant members of the Missoula community. We want visitors to not only thoughtfully consider the questions about their lived experience that are posed in the space, but ask themselves how they would feel being held indefinitely in a DOJ or WRA camp so they can truly connect with the lives of these men in a brand new way. So, since I am closing it down, without any further ado, I invite you all to come in and enjoy the space after the ribbon cutting, sit on a bunk, read through a letter, meet some of the Fort Missoula internees, and feel free to ask me or the HRA team any questions you might have. And thank you again for coming to share in this exciting moment with our museum team. Oh, I still working. I don't think I turned it off.
Okay, so now the moment we have been waiting for, Emma, 8 years. 8 years we've been waiting for. So
I was expecting your speech to be different.
no. So I figured I had so many thank yous, but so if I could, I would like to have our contractor, our architect, my team from here at the museum all come up front, and Ron Wakamoto as well too. Yeah, well, HRA as well too. Sorry, the whole team, everybody. Okay.
Ethan, get
Yes.
over here.
Okay. So hold those scissors up there, Ron. Show everybody our scissors.
We're doing it real.
Yes.
These are dangerous.
Yes. So Ron, would you like to do the honor for us?
All right.
Yeah, wait for Carrie.
Oh, okay. I can
Okay.
come over this way. Right?
I guess, Sherry.
Are we good, Ron?
You might get on the other side of the ribbon, Ron. I think.
Yeah. Do you want to get on the? Yeah.
I think that's probably best.
Yeah.
There we go. There we are. How's that, everybody? All set?
Yep.
I
Okay.
tend to take these things over. Sorry.
So we're going to do it?
Do it, Ron. Yes. Thank you, Ron. Okay, now let's go see the exhibit.
All right. Am I allowed to do So if you want to learn more about the songs that are being played on here, there's a little information on this licensing basis.
It's just a little warm. It's fine.
The floor, it's so beautiful. It's one of my favorite parts. That and what the ceiling looks like. It just it gets me every time.
It really is extremely moving.
Yeah, so all of the frame of the building is all original. So it's all 1940s wood. The windows are also original. These are new.
Yeah.
For structural integrity. Sure. Importance, holding it up.
No. How we need to interpret this following.
So Italians came first.
Yes, it is. She will come and see it. She will absolutely. And she was just here for legal. Yeah. Her blood is something. Her heart is
Yeah, really heartbreaking. Oh.
Good.
Wow. Yeah, you can read this story in the fruit crate.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it was here for a really long time. Not normal.
It sure doesn't seem that way. Yeah, so we have it set up for 6, but definitely it's 14. Yeah, they were
Can't believe they arrested the World's Fair workers. I didn't realize that those stallions came from.
Are they cool to make one of these recipes?
Yeah, we should.
And then was reunited with the rest of the family at Internee.
Yeah.
And then they all went to Topa. Oh, hi. How are you? Okay.
Yeah, I did too. Yes, it does. I think.
Of course, I guess it have to be to
Or not the state, but the Holly dish is pretty, isn't it? No, I
it was made to know. Yeah. I know. Yeah, I was.
Unless they had 12. Actually, they had one small room, and the next to it was that. That's what I mean.
awesome.
Thanks for coming too.
Yeah, no, this is so cool. I mean,
Yeah, you like the